Welcome, my friends of the interwebs. I'm going to do this old school style from the preacher bench. Some of my older subs, you know what I'm talking about. This is going to be a video response to LB45, who just put up a video called Heart Attack at 46. And I want to say, LB, first of all, thank God you're okay. And second of all, I see your heart attack at 46, and I raise you a heart attack at 36. Because that's when I had my first heart attack, when I was 36 years old. And I'm going to link to LB's video. So do yourself a huge favor and go check his video out. I think it's an important video because there are a lot of preconceptions about what having a heart attack will be like. Most people, if you ask them what will it be like if you had a heart attack, they would tell you, well, I'd grab my chest and, or collapse or whatever. And to be honest with you, most of the time that's not what happens. And LB tells his story, which is worth hearing, especially if you're a man, but even if you're a woman. LB, I want to, before I tell my story, I want to say congratulations on quitting the smoking. You're a whole lot smarter than me. I had my heart attack at 36. I did not quit smoking until I was about 41. So kudos for you, my friend. But I will give you some advice, one little bit of advice, if I may, since you've quit smoking. Incorporate some cardio, because in the last couple of years, since I quit smoking, I've put on about 75 pounds. And I wish I would have been doing some serious cardio when I decided to quit smoking. But whatever. My advice to you, my friend, is get out there and do some cardio. Whatever your doctor recommends you do. But for a lot of us, when we quit smoking cigarettes, it just packs the weight on us. It just does. So try to avoid that if at all possible, because what can happen when you pack a lot of weight on us, then you can become a type 2 diabetic like I am. And that opens up a whole slew of problems, especially with the heart and cardiovascular system. But anyway, neither here nor there. I want to tell everybody my story. I was kind of inspired by LB45 story. Some of you that are friends of mine may know the story, but a lot of you don't. So I'll tell it. When I was 36 years old, I actually when I was 35, I had a knee surgery. It should have been a really easy surgery. For the most part, it should have been a walk through the park. I had torn my meniscus in my right knee. Football players do this all the time. They have the meniscus surgery, the knee scope, and they're back on the field a week later. But unfortunately for me, I ended up getting an infection. And it was a pretty bad infection. It put me into the emergency room 3 days after my surgery, and I was in bad shape. If it wasn't for a very good friend of mine who had stopped by to check on me, I don't know that I would still be here. I was in big trouble with the knee. And being a guy, I remember my friend came over and she said to me, she goes, "You don't look good. You've got to go to the hospital." And hell, I was like, being a guy, I'm like, no, I don't think so. I had been popping pain pills, and I don't remember how many I took, but I remember it didn't affect the pain. My knee had swollen up about the size of a big cantaloupe. And anyway, she insisted, well, she ended up calling my surgeon. It was a Saturday night, and she called some service. She's a nurse, so she knew who to call. And they actually got a hold of my surgeon, and he passed the news to me to go to the emergency room, and he would meet me there. So he did. He met me at the emergency room, and I must have looked really bad because when I showed up to the emergency room, my friend drove me. I insisted, no ambulances, no bullshit like that. So my friend drove me, and I must have looked really bad because as soon as they came out to the car, she pulled out front of the emergency room doors. The guy came out, took one look at me, he comes in, gets he puts me in a wheelchair and wheels me back. And I blew by all the people that were waiting in the waiting room, and anyway, they did. They took the bandages off, and I got to see what was under the bandages for the first time. It was horrid. So anyway, to continue this story, because we're still a long way away from my heart attack, they straightened me out in the hospital as far as the infection went. Thank God they managed to get that under control. But it left a lot of scar tissue, and my knee wasn't working right, and it was bad. It was really, really bad. And I was on a cane, and it was, yeah, I couldn't walk. It was a year later. I was still on a cane, and I had to insist to my my surgeon. You know, that whole thing is a whole series of videos that I could do on this guy. But you know, I had to tell him, I'm like, look, you got to fix this. And nobody else, by the way, by that point, I was frustrated with him, and I called other orthopedic surgeons, and none of them would take any patient of the guy I had. Which, by the way, real quick, if you ever need any kind of surgery like that, especially like an orthopedic surgery, do yourself a huge favor. Go to the nearest rehabilitation center, walk in, ask to speak to whoever's in charge, head physical therapist, and say to her, I need whatever surgery. Let's just say hip replacement. Say, I need a hip replacement. Who would you recommend to me? And the reason I say this is because they see all the after effects of different surgeons, and trust me, there is a big difference in doctors. Doctors are no different than mechanics. You got good mechanics, you got shitty mechanics. You've got good surgeons, you got shitty surgeons. That is a fact. So you would do yourself a huge favor by asking one of the physical therapists to recommend. You don't have to go in there and say, well, who's the biggest quack? But you can go in there and say, who do you recommend? And a lot of times they'll tell you, you know, well, so-and-so, Dr. So-and-so is pretty good. They may not say avoid Dr. Quackadoo. Don't go to him. They might not say that, but you know, you might be able to get a decent recommendation and save yourself a lot of grief, because this whole thing, my knee surgery with, to be honest with you, a quack. No other way to put it. I know I got a couple of doctors that are subscribers of mine, and you probably don't like to hear the term quack, but it is what it is. Okay, but that situation with that surgeon set off a whole domino effect that would have huge impacts on my life. So anyway, yeah, let's get to the heart attack part. A year later, he agrees to go in. There had been a lot of scar tissue that had been built up. He agrees to go in and clean up the scar tissue. And he said, though, he goes, I'd like to have a medical clearance, which he had before anyway. And basically that just meant I go to my doctor, they put an EKG on you, and your doctor, and it's all about trying to get past liability on. Just in case somebody dies in surgery, that surgeon can say, well, hell, he was cleared by his physician. That's the way that works. Sad but true. We live in a litigious society, so I don't necessarily blame the doctor for that. So anyway, I go to my primary care physician to get a clearance, medical clearance to have surgery. And I'll never forget this because I felt great. I mean, other than my knee was all jacked up, physically I felt great. I was working out every day. I was, believe me, a lot better condition than what you see right now. Probably about at least 100 pounds lighter than I am today, maybe 120 pounds lighter than I am today. And I was in really good shape. Well, most of you have seen my gym. I've got thousands and thousands of dollars in this gym. This isn't something that a non-workout type person does. You just don't spend this kind of money unless you're into it. And I was in pretty good physical condition, with the exception of my knee. So I'm there in my primary care physician's office, and I'm laying on the little exam bed, and the nurse is in there, and she's putting the little sensor things on my chest, and she starts the test. The RN does, and and a lot of you have seen it. Reads out on this long piece of paper, and then she finished the test. She didn't look at the results. The doctor then came in. He looked at the results. And I'll never forget this. It's one of those surreal moments in life. He's standing there with this sheet of paper, which is my EKG. And he's looking at it, and he's staring at it. And I'm, You know, I've been going to this dude for years. He's an Indian dude, Dr. Bendaro. He's a really, really, really cool dude. He's an excellent doctor. But I'd known him for years, and I knew that I could just tell something was weird. And it seemed like forever. It was probably only a couple of minutes, but I said to him, I said, "What?" And he looked up at me, almost surprised that I was even in the room. And he said, "Are you having chest pain?" And I said, "No, not." And he goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's probably just you probably hiccuped or something." I'm like, okay. But I mean, I did feel good, and I was only, at that time, not even, right around 36 by this point, right around 36 years old. So I didn't really think much of it. I'm like, yeah, all right, maybe I hiccuped. I don't remember hiccuping, but maybe I hiccuped. Ugh. So anyway, my surgery was scheduled for by this point, about a week out. So I went home, didn't think anything of it, and then my doctor's office called me like 2 days later and said, "Hey, your surgeon would like you to have a stress test based on the results of the EKG." And I'm like, oh man, fuck. All right, whatever. They set me up for a stress test. Now my knee was jacked up, so I couldn't do the traditional bike or treadmill thing. I did a nuclear stress test, and they had to like inject me with some stuff to stress my heart out. Oh God, that sucked. It did. That sucked. So anyway, the test went. They don't tell you anything that day. I went home, and a few days went by, and I was like the day before my surgery. I hadn't heard anything, and I called my surgeon's office. I said, "Hey," I said, "I haven't heard anything, and I had the stress test in order to have the surgery. Should I be worried?" And she said, "Look, if you haven't heard anything, then you're fine. Are you planning on being there tomorrow for the surgery?" I said, "Well, yeah." So I go, and I have the surgery the next day, and everything went fine. In fact, that night that I came home from the hospital, because it's basically, for the most part, it's an outpatient, you're home that day for a knee scope. I could walk on my leg without a cane, which was amazing to me. So he had straightened out what he had done to it previously, and I'm talking about my surgeon. So everything's cool, a couple of days goes by. It was actually 3 days after my surgery, which was funny because it's the same amount of time after my surgery the first time that I had to go to the emergency room. But this is 3 days after my phone rings. And this is like a Saturday night. And I picked the phone up, and somebody asked for Mr. Hunter. And I could recognize the voice as my doctor, Bendaro. He's an Indian guy. He speaks great English, but, distinctive voice. And I said, "Dr. Bendaro?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, this is Richard Hunter." And he said, "I'm looking at the results from your stress test." And I'm like, well, first, let me tell you, when he first called me, the first thing I thought of was, because, listen, he's a great guy. I thought, man, you know what? I got the greatest doctor in the world. This guy's home on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock at night, and he's calling me to see if my surgery went okay and how I feel, which was not the case. So he says, "I'm looking at your stress test, and you had a heart attack." And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And remember, I never felt anything. I felt great. I never had an instance where I ever felt, like LB45, when he tells his story, as much as he didn't think he was having a heart attack, there were serious symptoms that at least sent him to the hospital. I never had anything like that. Unless it happened when I had to deal with the knee. I don't know, with the infection. But, I never felt it. So I said, are you serious? He said, "I'm looking at the pictures," because in a nuclear stress test, they take pictures of your heart before and after they stress you out, if I remember right. He said, "You have a scar on your heart, ischemia, I believe it's called, where when your blood vessels blocked off, the part of your heart that's normally fed by that blood vessel dies." And he said, "You need to make an appointment with a cardiologist." And I'm like, holy shit. I was just like, wow, blown away by this whole thing. I said, "Okay." And he goes, "As soon as you can." I said, "Okay." So I call that next Monday. It really sucked waiting from Saturday night to Monday to call. And but I got a hold of a cardiologist, and at that time I had United Healthcare, which was really, really good insurance, 100% no deductible. It was killer insurance. But you had to be in, you know how that whole thing works, the HMO thing. And so I found doctors that was in the first guy I called was an older guy, and he's special, you know, he's a specialist and cardiologist, and but he couldn't see me for like 6 months, and I'm like, that's not going to work for me. I got a hold of this next dude. His name was Dr. Hussein, and that at that time it wasn't that long after you know, the war with Iraq. So I was like, holy shit, I need a guy like Hussein, like I need a hole in the head. But I asked around, he came highly recommended. I'm actually glad I took this guy because Dr. Hussein is an awesome cardiologist. He's an awesome doctor. He's an awesome person. You know, and I can say other things about him, but as far as I know, he's just an awesome, awesome doctor. So anyway, I call his office, and you'd be really surprised how hard it is to get into a cardiologist. And I said to them, I said, listen, I said, my doctor just told me that I had a heart attack, and I need to make an appointment to see Dr. Hussein. And she said, okay, well, we can get you in, and the earliest we can get you in is like, I think it was like 2 weeks. And I said, what part of I just had a heart attack didn't you understand? You know, because I'm kind of freaked out, to be honest with you. And she said, well, it's the earliest he can get you in. If you start having any kind of chest pains or discomfort, go to the emergency room. I'm like, holy shit, what is this, Canada? You know? So, anyway, it was a long couple of weeks. It really was. But I go to see this guy, Dr. Hussein. He must have been born and raised in this country because his accent is completely American. It's not Middle Eastern or anything like that. And really cool dude, probably maybe 10 years older than me. And so he was probably in his mid-40s at that point. And he's looking at me, and I wasn't really overweight, or I maybe slightly overweight, but not very much overweight. I was in pretty good shape. Like I said, I was working out a lot. I was pretty buff, benching around 300 pounds. It was really just really good shape. And he's looking at me. He's going over and he's like, well, he's looking at the results from the test and all that stuff, and he's like, well, you're 36 years old. He said, you smoke, not a good thing, but, you know, he goes, you seem to be in pretty good shape. He said, I really don't think you had a heart attack. He said, I really think that this is a shadow. This scar, this ischemia is a shadow. I really think you're okay. And you don't have anything to worry about. And I was like, man, all that worry for nothing. Holy shit, you know. And I said to him, I go, are you sure? And he's like, you know, I'm pretty sure. I feel pretty good about that. And I said, well, you know, okay. And he said, but, you know, there is another test we could do. I could justify it based on the results from this test. And he said, it's a cath. And I said, well, what's that? And he goes, well, it's where we go up through your groin and, you know, go up to your heart and shoot some dye, and we can see what the arteries are doing. I said, is it painful? He said, well, it's a little discomforting, but it's not really painful. And I'm like, you know, and for the most part, to be honest with you, he had me convinced that I was perfectly fine in that. The test, you know, the EKG and the stress test were just false positives. And I remember he said, he goes, well, why don't you can think about it. He goes, if you want to have the test, just give me a call and we'll schedule it. So I went home, and my friend, my nurse friend, she said to me, look, you got incredible insurance. You're not going to have to pay squat for this. It's not that big of a deal. Why don't you just go ahead and make sure? And I said, you know, it took a little. I'm like, you know, you're right. What the hell? So I called my cardiologist's office and I said, listen, I said, I want to go ahead and have that stress test. And they said, well, we'll schedule it and we'll call you back and let you know. And I don't remember how long that took, but it was actually a long wait from that point. I mean, I want to say that was like 3 or 4 weeks waiting to get into the cath lab for that. And moral of the story, by the way, is just go to the ER, tell them you're having chest pains, and have it done. So, but anyway. So I wait the time. I'm still feeling good. I'm working out every day. I'm still smoking. You know, I smoked like a chimney. I'm not going to lie to you about that. But I mean, I still felt pretty decent. My knee was feeling great, feeling better than it had in a year. I was, for the most part, didn't have to use the cane. Everything was just really going my way. Until the cath. So I show up for this cath, and it's, for the most part, you know, you're in this lab, and I'll never forget this. The guy, they put you in a gown like they always do, and then they're wheeling me back to this, what was like a staging room, and it had all these gurneys and all these people. It was like everyone was waiting their turn to go into the cath lab. And the guy that was wheeling me back to the cath lab said, "You're awfully young to be here." And if you looked at everybody else that were in these gurneys, they were like ancient, you know, fossils. And I laughed and I said, "Yeah, you know, yeah, you're right. I'm a little young to be here." He goes, "Well, I'm sure you're gonna be fine." So when you have a cath, you're not completely out. You're kind of, you know, it's weird. You're kind of like, you're floating. You're not knocked out. You're floating. I don't know why that is, but that's the way it is. So there's all these big monitors up above, and then there's, you know, my doctor, my cardiologist, and a bunch of other people that I'd never met. I never did a head count, but there's probably 4, maybe 5 other people in the room. And they go up through the groin, and that's the only part that kind of sucked, because it kind of felt like my doctor was punching me in the nuts. And they're feeding this thing, and I'm kind of tightening up. He goes, "Don't tighten up." I'm like, quit beating my nuts, you know. So anyway, they get up in there and they shoot this dye. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of there, but I'm not, you know, I'm not knocked out, but you know. And this was early in the morning. I'm not a morning person anyway. I was probably still half asleep. And I remember hearing, it wasn't my doctor's voice, it was somebody else's voice. But I remember somebody saying, "Oh my God, look at that." And I'm like, "What?" And they're talking, and then my doctor goes, "Look up at the screen, and I'm going to shoot some dye." And they did, but I couldn't see what the hell they were talking about. And I actually kind of fell asleep. I don't know if they gave me a little extra, so I have no idea what was going on, but I fell asleep. I wake up in recovery. My nurse friend's there, and I said, and I felt my chest, and I know there wasn't, you know, there was no cut, no nothing. I knew they didn't crack my chest. And I looked at her and I go, "What did they do? Did they put a stent in?" And she said, "No, you're going to be fine." I said, "Well, what do you mean? No, I'm going to be fine. You're going to be fine." And in order to leave the cath lab, you've got to actually be able to walk up and down the hall like twice. And you know, they got this kind of the sandbag thing over the puncture site. That's a major artery, so they need to make sure that seals before they can let you go. And she's like, "Your doctor wants to see you." I think he had a thing. It was like 7 days, and or it might have been 3 days. It was enough days to where I was like, "What?" So she said to me though, she said, "I'll tell you all about it when we get home." She knew I wasn't quite, you know, I wasn't alert yet. She just ended up having to tell me twice. So anyway, we get back to my house, and she says to me, she said, "You had 100% blockage in one of your arteries, but your body did what amounts to a self-imposed internal bypass, or some people refer to it as a reroute." So for whatever reason, what my body did was it branched a vein around the blockage, okay, and started feeding the heart that wasn't getting blood. And because your heart needs oxygen, the blood vessels to your heart deliver oxygen and nutrients to that muscle. Okay, if that muscle is not getting the oxygen and the nutrients, then it will die. And if too much of your heart dies, then your heart can't function properly, and hence the heart attack. So, or full blown, you know, heart attack, where you know, die heart attack when it kills you. So anyway, I went to see my cardiologist, and he was just dumbfounded by the whole thing. And he told me, he said, "I've been a cardiologist for 18 years, and he said I've never seen anybody have a reroute that restored 100% blood flow ever." He said, "We didn't have to put any stents in, nothing." And I'm like, "Wow." And he said, "You're a very lucky man." I said, "Well, I'm really glad I had that cath." And he looked at me and goes, "I'm glad you had that cath." He goes, "Honestly, I did not think that we would find what we found." And I'm like, wow. I said, so what's this mean for me? And he said, means you got a gift. And he said, you know, he said, but you have to understand, in LB45, I want you to pay attention to this part. I don't know what your doctor told you. He said, once you've had a heart attack, you're subject to what they call sudden death. And I'm not trying to freak you out, but it's something to think about. And he told me, he said, you've got to, he goes, you got to do what you got to do. He goes, obviously, for whatever reason, you can block, you know, for whatever reason, and probably pretty quickly. And now what I think, by the way, if you want to know the truth, what I think happened, because at 36, nobody should have a blocked artery, 100% blocked artery. It shouldn't happen. It does happen, but I mean, it shouldn't. Honestly, I think because I was put on Vioxx for my knee injury. And because I remember going to my, after all this stuff, I went to my, my knee surgeon for a checkup on my knee, and I said to him, I said, is this Vioxx safe to take? And he said, it's absolutely safe. And I said, well, you know I had a heart attack, right? And man, I'll tell you, the blood just drained out of him, and he didn't even say anything to me. He was writing me a script for some other shit. In fact, I think it was Celebrex. You know? But yeah, I think the Vioxx did that. I never sued Merck or any of that crazes. Kind of goes against my my Republican leanings, but I really truly think that was probably a factor in it. Now, was it the only factor? I don't know. You know, the thing about Merck is they cooked a lot of books, and there's still a lot of things about that I just don't think we know. But anyway, having said all that, I'm okay. The moral of the story is that you can have a heart attack and never feel it, because honestly, I don't remember having a heart attack. Now, it could have happened. By the way, a lot of times you can have heart attacks while you're sleeping. In fact, a lot of times people have heart attacks while they're sleeping. Some people wake up and some people don't. But it's possible that I had those symptoms that LB45 had, but in the middle of the night. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, God only knows how long this video is. It's important, I think, for people to understand, though, that, you know, for a lot of things to understand. If there's any takeaway from this, just take care of yourself. Stop the smoking. It took me a long time to figure that out, but stop the smoking. I might do a video on how I quit smoking and maybe give some advice to people, because I made a few mistakes. Watch LB45's video. It's worth it. It's really worth it. Just to hear the descriptions of his heart attack, because he was young, and it's not the normal descriptions you hear when you hear people talk about heart attacks, or what people's preconceptions are, or what you see in the movies. You know, the whole, oh my God, you know. So anyway, listen, everybody, I'm heading to the Southland here, probably either tonight or tomorrow. So I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able to post a video is. But I got a big meeting with the federal prosecutors down there. Obviously, some of you that watch the real life videos know what I'm talking about here. Well, might be able to slip in a real life video fairly soon. I don't know. I'm gonna see what's what. Can't really do anything without the permission from the big boy. So anyway, everybody, if you have any questions about heart attacks or whatever, let me know. Like I said, please go visit LB45 to watch this video. It may save your life. So everybody have a good one.